If you play enough Football Manager, you're bound to see some crazy stuff. Poland in real life this season has been especially wild and has generally followed suit inside this save. But this year really takes the cake for that. And that's before we've even considered Europe. So over on stream right now, it is a carnival atmosphere. It's mine and Pog's birthday this Saturday, but since we're in Poland this weekend, we're choosing to celebrate it today. We've obviously got transfers and all sorts of other goodies, along with something much bigger, which will become clear later in today's video. So do be sure to join us over there once you've caught up on all the goodness from Season 6 in Poland over here. The VODs, second channel, linked in the description, you know the drill. I mentioned in the last recap that I was working on a scouting video to do with the Director of Football stuff, and that my filters for scouting would be available attached to that. I'm still working on that, so the filters instead will be attached to this video as well, so you can get them a little bit sooner. So those filters will be linked in the description. Don't worry, it isn't behind a paywall, it's just linked there. That way I can update that same page every time I add new filters, and the links will all remain exactly the same. It's much easier this way. So coming into Season 6 of Building a Nation with Wisła Kraków, the threat to us domestically was somewhat fading away, which would allow us to focus more of our time and attention on European matters. After reaching the knockouts of the Champions League last year for the first time, we hoped to do it again, and this year would be the last year of having to get through a pesky playoff game in order to get into the main event. So provided we could navigate that without disaster, we should be set. Recruitment-wise, we were slowly pivoting over towards team reports being the sole focus, and that was slowly ramping up in the background, meaning that again, a little bit less on the recruitment side this year, lots of amateurs and a few laser-focused signings. Now, with the way I left things last time, I suspect you're wondering what happened in the Europa League final and how the league actually finished in the end. Well, obviously you knew that we won in the end. Arka, Wisła Płock and Wiedź Łódź had all gone down already. The biggest change, though, was that on the final day, Kraków pipped Lech Poznan to a European place by winning on their ground and nicking that 5th place away from them. So that was the main change domestically. But what about Jagiellonia in the cup final, in the Europa League final? Calling it a cup final is an understatement. And they started well. Took the lead after 11 minutes when Nzola carefully laid the ball back to Pienko to smash them in front. All was well for a while, but 36 minutes in, a perfect through ball from Krastev's Centrasoli in on goal, and he tied the game up. Under a minute later, still reeling from the first goal, Korin got a beautiful crossing from the right, which Trasoli was able to nod home, out-jumping 2 defenders to flip the game on its head in a single minute. Jagiellonia had some bright chances after the start of the second half, but an awful decision from Amero saw him bring down Solis, who was more than happy to dispatch the penalty to put the game beyond our countrymen. The game managed it somewhat after that, so there wasn't really any massive chances for Jagiellonia beyond that point. So close, but no cigar. But it was still a great year. We go 9th in the coefficients. All is looking very good. This year we'd hope to build on it, and hopefully Jagiellonia would join us in doing so, except they wouldn't, because they wouldn't be in Europe, of course. And their manager had decided to leave. Before we get fully cracking, the only other thing to note is I'm going to be slowly changing the structure of these videos, hybrid and dynamically on the fly as we move through the seasons, because obviously, at a certain point, me showing highlights of every single romping league win when we're in Season 15 isn't especially good for context. But what we will be doing is slowly pivoting over to showing more of the games from the other Polish sides in Europe instead, to try to keep the focus on the Building a Nation stuff. This year is a bit of a weird hybrid of both, to give you an idea of what you're likely to see going forward, which is awesome, considering it was a day when I'd have half the time as usual to actually make this video. But you'll get an idea of that once we get going. Now, as always, I want to highlight a couple of players that you should probably keep an eye on for us this season that might be having seasons you may want to pay attention to. It wouldn't be right if I wasn't showing Anwar Naeem. He may be my favourite player at the entire club. You might notice that I've changed the skin as well. We now have the scrollable options, which actually means I can now reveal all of this information for you at once if I scroll down the screen. I really like it. This is, of course, the previous season, but he was another one that would have an unbelievable season this year. What is that word? Then there was Stéphane Montperouse, of course. Still no caps for France. Obviously, he's 19, but my goodness, if there was any player that could do it, it probably is him. And he's the guy to pay attention. You can't not look at him. One day I might not show him, but I have to, right? But another I want to highlight is Adrian Damasiewicz, who of course came through the academy a few years ago, has mostly been a bit part player since then. But this is a guy that, albeit in a more rotational role, has always felt like a threat. And you can see with 3 Poland caps, clearly Poland like him too. Of course, this season he only got relatively small impact. This year I was going to be playing him a lot more though. And the player that he'd most likely be behind is Olufemi John. Now he's got that PPM, I felt that he could do big things for us this year down that left-hand side. It did sort of push Krzyżanowski out the squad somewhat, but needs must. We needed to move forward, and John was hopefully the man for that job. Then there was another of my absolute favourites, Dusan Obradovic, another to look out for. Part of that holy trinity, if you will, of Montparnasse, Obradovic and Hjörtedal. Those three, stunning players. And lastly, a player you might not have seen as much over Season 5, but definitely would feature a lot more in Season 6, because we had a look at him at the start of the season and went, my goodness, Alessandro Pagna needs to be playing. Now, of course, he plays in the same position as the Red Mumbler. Not easy, but just giving these two time to play together would be absolutely astonishing, and this would be a huge breakout season for Alessandro Pagna. Now, we didn't have a lot of time after the Europa League final and the somewhat disappointing result to do a lot of transfers, but we did still get a few guys over the line. The first of whom was Mohamed Ramadan, an Egyptian international striker who admittedly hasn't actually signed for us properly. He's back on loan at Z, but for £400,000, it's rare that you find Egyptian players that you could get this cheap. But for a guy called Mohamed Ramadan, he isn't that fast. We then made somewhat of a mistake, dropping £3.5 million on Dusan Pavlik. He may be a Slovakian international, and I thought maybe he could be that DM extraordinaire that could drop deep, and, well, we haven't really seen much from him since. But your mistakes are important too. We also spent 15k on a fella called Lovemore Pillar. Botswana guy, Janeng Galaxy. Oh my goodness. Me when I'm designing the Parthenon. But we have to sign him now. His name's Lovemore Pillar. This is incredible. But by far our most expensive signing of the season up to this point was a player that we'd sort of already agreed to sign, and that was Seaman Bank. We'd been calling him Sperm Bank, because obviously, Danish international centre-back, I felt like he could be the guy that could probably dislodge someone like Sohail Stapelfeld from our team, basically, because I felt that he could just do things a little bit more, and I've never been quite sold on Stapelfeld. If I could get some money for him, I would. Moving on from that, though, we did finally get a new TV deal, which was really nice to see, and Spurs also bid £147 million for Adan Katala, and people looked at me weird when I said no, but frankly, I can't put a wheelbarrow full of money up front for us. We have to put people there, unfortunately. Best part was he didn't even complain. We then did what I love to do, signing right-backs. Saeed Shokri, coming in from an Iranian side for £2 million, but he just has such great attributes. The crossing and dribbling. He's not the fastest, but he's got good acceleration. The rest of his physicals are excellent. He can tackle, he can mark. He can't actually play the wing-back role yet, but I'm teaching him that. And that would also allow us now loads more rotation. It would allow Kaminski and Piakovsky to go out on loan somewhere and develop a little bit more rather than stagnating here. Cost us 20 grand a week as well to bring him in, but I just think he's a fantastic player. And once he learns that role, he'll be awesome. But then things really picked up, as frankly, my signing of the season, Michael Feeler. Oh, sorry, I have to check it under the table, don't I? It doesn't look right otherwise. You know what to do, chat. It doesn't help that I'm groaning as I say that. It's harder in my left hand. No, that's not the... 20-year-old, I think he might have been 19 at the time. No, actually he was 20. Italian striker signed from Cesena for £3.9 million, which is a lot of money for a position that we already had players in. But when you see a guy like this, you just sometimes can't really say no. But we didn't think we'd actually sign it because Real Madrid were interested, City are interested, City put a bid in as well, and they had it accepted, so we just expected he's going to go to City. And then he chose to sign for us instead. I assume it's because they were offering a much lower squad status, and we are offering good wages, so I suspect that he just really wanted to play football. It did give us a selection headache though, because, you know, with Katala and Duru, and then obviously Fuhrman playing behind him, and then Ander Redondo on the left-hand side, where on earth was Fila going to fit in? And it did sort of speed up the exit of Alexander Fuhrman. The original plan was to loan him, but then when Rakov said, hey, we'll give you £450,000, he'd get to play in the Conference League for them this season, we thought, you know what, it's time to set him free, finally let him earn more than £100 a week. So he went just under £500,000 to Rakov. They're paying him £5 grand a week now. He's earning back all the money he could have got here. Best of luck to him. And then we got a little bit silly. Yeah, I signed Ollie Watkins. He was released by Villa, and he was willing to join us on an impact sub status on 25 grand a week, which is a lot, but not as much as I was expecting. And after whittling him down a little bit, he agreed to join us for a season. Now, the downside is he is going to be promised a large amount of money if he plays 30 games for us. So I could not play him that much, but I still wanted to just give him a try. But there was a better one. Yeah, I also signed Job Bellingham. He was released by Dortmund. After a couple of trials, originally he wanted 100 grand a week to join us. After being trialled here and realising there was no interest from elsewhere, he agreed to a 4-year contract, bear in mind he's 24, on 12 grand a week as a squad player. And do you know what? He's a classy individual to have around the club. He gives us a little bit more depth in that midfield behind the Holy Trinity. And we've signed Job Bellingham. Probably should have clickbaited those two in the thumbnail, really. I'm a terrible YouTuber. Another player of note that joined was Manu. random guy, gendered in Spain, these Spanish guys that you can, I mean, he's actually Equatorial Guinean, but still, I don't know what to do with him. He's another striker though, but he's only on a breakthrough prospect deal. But in other rather fun news, Alex Greenwood, one of our backroom staff, took over the job at Ruk Herzhov, which is just awesome to have Alex Greenwood managing in the extra class now, with of course Marta managing in the second tier this year. And it wasn't just us, because some of the other Polish sides had also been busy transfer-wise, and 3 giant sales had happened, and some of the players that they'd had, I didn't even notice they had them. For a start, this lad left from Rodomiac to go to Bayer Leverkusen for quite a lot of money. I think it was about £4.5 million. He's now worth 50. Similar story for Recep Gunej, who left for I think £3 million from Górnik Zabrze to go to Eintracht Frankfurt, and now he's worth £70 million. Again, I hope they have clauses. And lastly, Jose Diaz Gonzalez left from Corona Kielce to join Villarreal. And look at the state of this footballer. Okay, he can't jump to save his life, but like, my goodness me. The fact that other Polish sides are scraping these guys together and then selling them on is a very good sign that their recruitment is at least awesome. I mean, look at the state of him. But that's enough ins and outs for the time being. The Super Cup was here, and John wasted no time in making things interesting as his throw-in was intercepted with a header which landed straight at the feet of Ben Brahim, whose first touch took him past a static Rodriguez to make way for a tidy finish and the first half lead. In the second half, we gave the header assist a try for ourselves as Obradovic's looping nod sailed over the defender for Fila to strike on the volley for his first in red and our tying goal. But just 10 minutes from time, it was magic that saved the day. Watkins off the bench fed Fila, who seemed to suck every defender towards him like a cyclone. His intricate ball round the side took 4 Cracovia players by surprise, and it was Watkins' international level class that was there to finish it off and give us the Super Cup. On to the league. A relatively easy fixture saw us kick things off and travel to Łódź, but we just love going behind, it seems, as Jaw picked out Sane, and it was 1-0 inside 2 minutes as the rain poured down. And it would stay that way. That wasn't until the 95th minute when Jakub Krzyżanowski took matters into his own hands. He just had a goal disallowed for offside and seemed to let the anger get the better of him, hurtling into an awful challenge to receive his marching orders and a 3-match ban to go with it. Not great from a player whose position in the team is already up for grabs. And that gave us some decisions to make. We needed to get some more players in that could join those loan farm ranks and try to strengthen the other teams in Europe, whilst also waiting for the Champions League playoff to be drawn and decide our fate. And after our awful opening day display, we needed to bounce back against European finalists Jagiellonia Białystok under new management. And I'd love to show you the goals, but for some reason when I try to show you the highlights, FM shows a different game with our players wearing the kits of another team. I have no idea. Apparently this is a bug. It's happened a couple of times this year, unfortunately. But a 5-0 win? This is all I could scrape together from clips. All my own custom leagues built into it. Montperou's goal. Oh, he slipped it through. Okay. Sure. Use every little bit of energy that I have over the 4 hours, as you can probably tell. Luckily, I do have highlights for the next few as we hosted GKS Katowice and hope to continue the revival. Just before the break, Naeem danced into the box and set up Obradovic for his second of the year already and made me feel better about his performances towards the end of last season. 15 minutes from time, we caved in. A header was well saved by De Campo but put over the line by Lee, with Ollie Watkins on the line having as much impact as the stewards. But Mr. Watkins was not to be messed with. Come on. Here we go, Peña. Oh, that's a nice little pullback. Oh! Oh, I'm wetting my pants. I don't know. This better not be disallowed for offside. I will actually... Peña added another in the 90th minute to finish it off. Much more like it from us. Next was the trip away to the always sunny stadium of Bruk Bertnicecia for a game that never seemed to get going. It was heading towards stalemate before Redondo received the ball on the left, played a wonderful outside of the foot cross for Fila to glance a header, pass the keeper and score the winner. The form was really picking up now, and so was the weather as we hosted Górnik Zabrze. 35 minutes in, Bellingham was fed into the channel. His drilled cross bounced off the post into the path of Katala, who reminded us why we made the right choice in turning down Spurs' billions. 3 minutes later, it was Ranjbar's turn to be classy. His first touch eliminated the defender and allowed a nice side foot finish for 2-0. Peña again showed class in the second half as he picked out Katala, whose deflected strike found the net. If you don't buy a ticket, you'll never win the lottery. But his best moment came 4 minutes from time as he pounced on a poor header to go around the defender and powered a side foot home from the D to wrap up a great win and a performance from himself, with our playoff game midweek the real focus of our attention. Because Dinamo Zagreb are a good side. So naturally, we decided to go shopping again and picked up Antonio Quiros on loan, well, technically transferred, then loaned back to FC Andorra. He's another centre-back. We could have an entirely Andorran centre-back pairing. Wouldn't that be great? 1.9 million, though. But the real pick of the bunch, in terms of signings, was Eloy Suarez. 20-year-old Spanish striker, £72,000. From, I think, a team called Mosteles. I have no idea what he was going to do for us this season. The plan would be to get him out on loan as soon as possible, because these are the kind of players that the loan farm is built around. If you get one of these guys out to a team in the European challenging spots or something, they can be the making of a save, quite frankly. So that was the big plan with Eloy Suarez. If not, I don't know what we'd do. Luckily, breakthrough prospect at the very least. But that's enough signings. It was time for Champions League, as it was now Judgment Day as Dinamo Zagreb travelled to Poland. A tough opponent, but we felt confident, especially after our run to the knockouts last year. After a genuinely poor first half from us, where we'd struggled to create, we struck gold. Montparnasse found some space in the midfield and used his mastery to pick out the run of Fila, who made no mistake in putting us 1-0 up. He's fitted into the team marvellously and does give me a huge selection headache with Duru. 10 minutes after the break, Montparnasse again proved key as his cute pass unlocked the defence and Fila found Katala. He spun and fired a low shot under the keeper before anyone could blink. 2-0 is great, but a goal back for them now would change everything. With 10 minutes to go, we had our answer, as Coffey's work on the right confused the defenders. The ball bounced back to Fila, who stuck a leg out instinctively to make it 3-0, and in the end, a very deserved win once we got going. We even considered the idea of resting some players for the second leg, with us looking so damn good, but we are professionals, so decided no, we'll rest for the league game in between and come back strong in that second leg and make sure we get through. The rotated squad did us proud at last year's success story, Rodomiac Radom, showing a real knack for a perfect low cross, and today was the same as he left Watkins with a tap-in as the rain poured down. Not long after, Coffey found Ranjbar in the box for an easy strike to make it 2 and kill the game. We had real depth now, and it felt like the B team could generally take care of stuff in the league while we focused on other things, such as that important match away in Zagreb, where we still had to be sensible. And sensible it was to sign Ike Aguirre. £72,000, I think it was, or £68,000 from Portugaletes in Spain again. These are all just transfer room in. So many of these guys, pretty much every single time you see me sign a Spanish player, it's from transfer room in. Our DOF is just firing them at us, and Spain is just cooking at the moment. Luckily, there was also the signing of Andres Herrera from Deportivo Cali for I think £500,000. As a squad player status, I expected we'd get some game time from him this season, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'd forgot we'd even signed him because I don't know if he's played a single minute for us this year. That's the level of depth we have. Tell a lie, it was 1.1 million and it was Independiente Santa Fe. The annoying thing about the game not showing this detail on the players' profiles anymore is it gets confusing for your boy. But now it was time for Zagreb. And we started strong, failed to take a couple of chances, and 36 minutes in, Valincic's good work out wide allowed Bojkov to lash the ball in through a crowd of bodies. These things happen. Unfortunately, 5 minutes after the break, Naim did what I could only describe as an excellent finish into his own net from a powered cross. Does he still think it was the first half? It had me a little worried. Worry which then soon became dread when we failed to react to a defensive clearance and Lesica's shot flew past Ocampo, whose body language was less goalkeeper, more deer in headlights. Amazingly, the game had actually been very even despite the hilarious scoreline, and with 15 minutes to play, we were certain that we'd be able to find some chance that could take us through to the next round. Yeah, you're right. This is all just set up for Ollie Watkins to score the winner, and suddenly, that signing will look way better. No, he's getting cooked again. If we lost this game while having completely comparative stats, sometimes football really just does things to you, doesn't it? We were all going to be the better side on the night. Probably one of the worst defeats I've ever had in all my years playing Football Manager, honestly. To be 3-0 up and then lose that 4-0 in that style. Sometimes football just says, no, you're not having fun today. How dare you? And that, of course, resigned us to the Europa League, which at least would give us a chance to go quite deep in Europe, potentially, should we get our act together. But it does make it harder to recruit and potentially keep hold of players. So therefore, what of the other Polish sides in Europe? This time around, I'm going to mix it up a little bit, like I said, and track it a little differently. With the qualifiers, it'll be largely the same as before, but the rest of it will be tracking as we go along, and you'll see what I mean. First, Lechia Gdansk, who entered the second qualifying round of the Champions League and actually were able to dispatch of young boys quite easily. Unfortunately, Genk were a little too much of a push for them in the third round of qualifying, and after a 5-2 aggregate defeat, they slip into the Europa League group stages. Nothing to be ashamed of. Legia, on the other hand, entered the qualifiers for the Europa League at the third round, easily swept aside Levski Sofia 2-1 on aggregate, to set up tight against Viking, which they were able to dispatch them relatively easily as well, winning both legs to comfortably progress to the Europa League as well. So 3 teams in the Europa League, not bad. Now to the ultimate underdogs, Rodomiac Radom, who ended up in Europe but in the second qualifying round of the Conference League, but made light work of an Austrian side 5-1 on aggregate to breeze through to the third round. There they would play against Farol Costanza, but managed to beat them on penalties after a 3-3 draw to progress to the final playoff round, where they'd meet Ajax and be reminded that football can be hard, but they only lost 5-3. Just realised I said Europa Conference League, I meant Europa League. This dropped them, of course, into the Conference League, but it's still group stages, as it was actually Rakov that would have to start in the second qualifying round for the Conference League. Not great, although they made very light work, winning 8-2 in the second qualifying round against Spartacus to easily progress through. There it was a 7-3 victory against Universitatea of Romania to breeze through to the next round against Nordsjælland. They'd already scored 15 times. where they then added another 5 as they beat Nordsjælland by 5 goals to 2 to easily reach the group stages of the Conference League, and had scored 20 times already, having a lovely time. This gives us 5 teams in Europe, 3 in the Europa League, 2 in the Conference League. This is a chance for really good points. Just like last year, we wouldn't actually have to have someone go as far to get quite good results. And with 6 games now played in the league, we were sitting pretty. If we hadn't have actually lost that opening day game to the team directly above us, we'd have been sitting quite comfortably top of the league, barely conceding, scoring loads. But shout out to Wukash Watch, who had really shot out like a cannon this year, including that win over us, and they deserved to be up there. It wasn't a fluke. Made even funnier by the fact that last year was perhaps a little too sensible by Polish standards, so 3rd and 4th place in the league currently are both newly promoted from the 2nd tier in the form of Zagłębie Lubin and Piast Gliwice. Because of course, the team that actually won that division last year down in 13th in Pogon. After our awful defeat, dropping us down into the Europa League, we only had 10 days left of the window to scrounge up some extra signings and try to focus on the league for a little bit to remind us that we were actually quite good. A game in which we huffed and puffed and couldn't break through. That was until the 78th minute when several ricocheted shots finally found the feet of Demašević, whose shot took one more deflection into the path of Coffee for the winner. Next, it was a trip to a surprisingly strong Zagłębie Lubin side, fresh from their promotion, but 19 minutes is all they could hold out for. Coffee's Rabona cross led to Bellingham's block shot. Peña was there for the rebound. 30 minutes later, Bellingham would get another chance, this time Fila running into the channel, pulling it back for him. His shot found the net, beating an unsighted keeper. There was, however, a response literally 1 minute later. A poor-headed clearance landed with Ruiz, who dinked an effort over to Campo, who made the wrong choice to come out. Not to worry though, as in first half stoppage time, Big Jens was the man again, striking a beautiful effort from just outside the D to put us clear and grab the points. With our first Europa League game midweek against Besiktas, who we'd beaten last season, we rotated against Motor, and it didn't really pay off, but we had transfers to think about. And in my quest for yet another centre-back, we stumbled upon Alfonso Antonio of Spain. We signed him from Segovia for £550,000. However, Chat and I came to the conclusion that his hair and moustache do not look real, and we're convinced he's in witness protection somehow. So if you do notice a player's name changing quite a lot throughout today's video and into the future, you'll know that it's him, but also please don't tell anybody. See if you can spot all the different names for the rest of it. They'll all be alliterative, and they increment the letters each time. It's like a mini game. We also then dropped a little bit more cash on Aaron Danhard, 21-year-old Swedish centre-back, 2.1 million. I just keep looking for centre-backs, hoping that we're going to find someone. Truthfully, I think our best ones, other than our actual starters, are just guys out on loan. But I don't have the heart to bring them back. They're having such a nice time. But for £2.1 million, he's quite good. And looks like a real beard. Also a pro tip from me when looking at players, don't be an idiot like me. Why are they all strikers? Actually, I tell you what. Wait, I've got a filter on. I have a filter. Why are they all strikers? I've got to have to wear the hat for at least 10 minutes now. Why are they all strikers, Matt says, as he has it filtered by strikers. Oh, it's the dream. I can't, it's still galling to me when I see like 24 skins at this point. 20. We'd beaten them in the Champions League last year, so felt up for it, but it was a very slow start to the game for us. That was until 32 minutes when Katala picked up the ball and pulled off a perfect pass to Fila's chest. He brought it down and buried it for 1-0. 2 minutes later, and those early worries were gone. Nice work from Naeem to win the ball back led to Dusan doing what he does in Europe and drilling one in the bottom corner. 10 minutes into the second half, Besiktas were given a lifeline as Toure drove into the box and passed hapless defenders to pull one back. Under a minute later, we'd restore the advantage. This time it was Hjörtedal's turn to play the perfect pass to Fila, whose runs have been electric as of late. He calmly finished for 3-1. There's still time for one more on the hour as Katala slalomed over a defender with the ball and finished into the bottom corner. He hasn't seen as many chances this year, and the match-changing changes that occurred towards the back end of last year have definitely limited him slightly, along with the wing-back assists, but we feel like we're spreading the goals around a little bit more, and he's definitely back in form still. I don't regret turning down the money, I promise. Back in the league, it was a sunny Sunday afternoon game. Ranjbar was enjoying the sun a little too much as he got sent to the beach by Romero, who then drilled Piast Gliwice in front. 10 minutes later, it was Coffee again, a man who's become incredible in that right wing-back role, cutting it on his left, smashing it in. Just into the second period, the second stringers managed it again, Redondo breaking through and choosing to set up Bellingham, prove the right choice, and that was all she wrote with Bologna coming up midweek away from home. We knew games like this would define our chances of getting top 8 in the Europa, which was the target, and after a great first 20, we got the opening we needed. Montperouge set Katala through, and he slotted us 1-0 up, totally in control. That was until 55 minutes when Cambiaghi cut inside brilliantly and curled a beauty into the top corner. Nothing the keeper could do, but annoyed to concede from their first shot. Annoyance then got even worse 10 minutes later when Fabian's shot hit Eduardo and found the net for an own goal. They'd had one shot on target at this point, and in the end, yeah, we couldn't come back. This game sucked ass such a horrible defeat, we decided to take that anger out in the derby against Cracovia. Katala was played down the left-hand side, bided his time before picking Fila for a beautiful back post header and a first-half lead. It was then Jens' turn yet again for another worldie as he bent a gorgeous strike into the far post from the corner of the box. A melee in that box eventually led the ball to find Katala, who made it 3 and was definitely adding more goals again. 8 minutes from time, Duru reminded us that he's still classy, smashing our 4th in and getting some good vibes back. Vibes that carried on into the high-flying, newly promoted Pogon. This truly was the Dusan Obradovic show. After Monperus had given us the lead in the first minute, Dusan made it 2 with a nice back post header. Sapsford then made it close with a wonderful half volley from a tight angle. After Fila restored the 2-goal lead, Obradovic was threaded through and unleashed a strike that would have broken any keeper who got in the way for 4-1. 55 minutes in, he completed his hat-trick with his second header of the game. Not something he's known for, but my goodness, he'd shot out like a rocket this year, even in the league. Sadly, the highlight bug affected this game as well against Lech Poznan, so all I can tell you is that we were a bit lucky and needed Ollie Watkins to bail us out, but a point's a point. And after 13 games, we were finally looking clear in the league. 7 points clear of second place Cracovia. We hadn't lost since the opening day and had pretty much done nothing but win since then. 32 points on the board, truly crushing it. Only 6 goals conceded as well. Utterly brilliant. Cracovia still look decent though, gotta be said. What it really needs though is a bit of stability with who's actually qualifying for Europe, because if you get the same few teams a few times in a row, it gives you the opportunity for them to get money and rep and keep those squads together. It just doesn't seem to happen in Poland. Rakov had followed up their European qualification last year by being bottom after 13 games. Jagiellonia still in the relegation places despite their European final last year as well, which is mad. Lech Poznan down in 15th. Legia are in 12th as well. Legia were the only ones coming out with any real signs of dignity in, what were they, in 9th place? Actually, tell a lie, the surprise package of last year, Rodomiac, they were doing a fine job, but still sat behind several promoted sides. The last thing we needed is teams like Pogon and Piasklevica qualifying for Europe next year, because that would be catastrophic. But with that rant off of our chest, it was time for Freiburg in the Europa League. And on the topic of Freiburg, I can't believe I completely somehow missed this or glossed over it earlier. In the summer, I sold Sohail Stapelfeld to Freiburg for £8 million, because despite as good as he looks, and I think he is excellent, he just never seemed to perform in our tactics, and it was always the worst rated player on the pitch. Now, the position could definitely be a factor there, but I'd noticed that JT had looked better in that role in sporadic games, and towards the start of this season, Seaman Bank had done a very good job there too, so I think it was about the player, and we were able to cash in a decent whack of change. Obviously, he's worth a fortune now, and we'd have to play him in the very next game. And half an hour into that game, we were fearing yet another disaster despite our dominant start on paper, as Matanovic broke through and was able to fire the German visitors ahead. But we kept pushing, and finally, on the hour mark, Naeem managed to create space, but his cross was blocked straight into the path of Mr. Europe himself, Dusan Obradovic. With 15 minutes to go, we got what we deserved. Dusan picked out Joe Bellingham, who rattled off a lovely low strike to get us the win and his first goal in Europe for us. An important player, glad we signed him. Still can't believe we only scored twice in this game, but that is life, right? We got the win. At least it wasn't Bologna. But before we get into European tables and whatnot, might be worth checking in on the other Polish sides to see how they get on and give you a taste of the way I'm going to try and handle these highlights in future. Legia kicked things off against FCSB. They fell behind early on, but after that it was the Yuri Konda show, on loan from us of course, his hat-trick propelling them to a 5-2 win. They then travelled to Switzerland, but Ismail Sarr was too strong. 2 goals from him gave Basel a win despite a late one from Kukonda. Things didn't get easier for them as Teza's deflected cross was turned in by Skyvink to hand them a 1-0 defeat at home to Ajax. Lechia Gdansk were also in action against Swiss opposition and despite playing well, fell to a late header for a 1-0 defeat. They bounced back straight away with a lucky win from the spot against Maccabi Haifa. Hosting Newcastle, however, was a bridge too far and they were comfortably beaten. After 3 games, we got 6 points. Should have been 9, but we were doing just fine. I was happy with that at this stage. The others, a little bit less so. Legia had managed to get 3 points on the board from 3 games. They had to sort of track a little bit higher than that, as usually you need 9 points minimum to get through to the next round. Lechia, with their 3 points and their slightly worse goal difference, were currently outside looking in, but hopefully that would change. But what about the Conference League? Rodomiac were first up and set about dismantling Tirana, 6-2 hammering, featuring 4 goals from Alex Luna. Sadly, they didn't carry that into matchday 2 against Gilvis, losing a very even game that they may regret later down the line. Rakov, on the other hand, had a very nice Scottish adventure for their first 2 games, starting off away at Hearts, and Morcia was even able to give them the lead. Shanklin wiped that out before a beauty handed them defeat. Next they hosted Motherwell. This is the part where I say, yes, she's fine thanks, and we all move on with our lives. It was Fabrice Facone on loan from us with the winning goal to help them even more. So reasonably good starts, 1 win apiece, Rodomiac looking better thanks to the goal difference, but all to play for. It was now time for the final rundown to the winter break. With a healthy lead in the league, we could at least afford to rest players to allow us to get some better results in the Europa League. But first, there was the little matter of the cup. And despite a top-flight opponent, the sailing was smooth thanks to Montparnasse, Catala and Duru, and we were straight through to the next round. But next, it was a struggling Rakov side at home, and the struggles continued for them as they allowed Montparnasse to swivel and fire us in front in the opening minute. He'd really added goals to his game lately thanks to a new gets forward wherever possible trait. I didn't ask him to learn it, he's just doing things extracurricularly. Loney Thiago did well to bury a great finish against his parent club after 36 minutes, but it was all for naught. Obradovic stood up one for the powerful header from Catala, and then an almost identical goal from Montparnasse 10 minutes later. We were scoring a few more headers lately, which is a nice new dimension to the game. Maybe a slight little tweak to the match engine? I don't know. Either way, we had bows up midweek. The idea that Big Jens only scores bangers persists as he unshackled a raging stallion of a strike to give us the lead after 13 minutes. 3 minutes later, Naeem's jinky run gave ample room for Fields to slot home and extend the lead. On the stroke of half-time, Jens said, sure, why not just do it again? So that's exactly what he did, curling a powerful effort home. Bad positioning allowed space for Armstrong to grab Bo's consolation, but an Ollie Watkins penalty restored the lead not long afterwards. We did, however, still find time for De Campo to drop an absolute howler into the path of Alua for 4-2, but the result was the key takeaway. We won the game. Back in the league, it was fine margins and red mumbles that gave us a narrow win over Alex Greenwood's Rook Hurzhov, but another 3 points in the bag. A Friday night tempest awaited us hosting Korona Kielce, and it was Joe Bellingham who broke the deadlock after 18 minutes with a lovely run and an even better strike. Just before half-time, intricate touches from Bellingham and Redondo sent Peña through on goal, and he didn't hesitate to make it 2. Diego gave us a taste of magic to halve the deficit on the hour mark with a truly brilliant goal, but we are so good at recovering leads, and today was no different. Dushan's deflected cross was turned in by Duru, and that set us up perfectly to host Ferencváros in Europe the following week. And let's just say, this game was memorable. The first memory we made was giving away a penalty 9 minutes in and digging a nice hole to climb out of. We then set about missing every chance presented for the first 20 minutes, and the anxiety was rising. That was until some calm interchanging in the box allowed Fila to tap home the equaliser and soothe the nerves. 2 minutes later, they were gone as Naeem burst into the box and finally scored his first of the season after God knows how many attempts. After half an hour, Hjortadal found space just inside the area and bent a low shot past the keeper for 3. We didn't even know he was allowed to shoot inside the box. We'd gone from misery to delight in 10 minutes, but instead of easing off, the team chose pure anarchy in the second half. First, Catala swept one home from the edge of the box to make it 4. Inside a minute later, Montparnasse cheekily found Fila to slam home our 5th goal. I then made a raft of changes to protect players and see the game out. The subs then had other ideas. First, Bellingham fed Duru, who made the most of his appearance to finish from a tight angle. It was then copy and paste. Bellingham crossed to Duru, who nodded it past the keeper for a 7-1 lead. In the 90th minute, Naeem picked him out over the top yet again. He controlled it well and smashed it home, his hat-trick, and gave me a lot to think about in an 8-1 win when you score a hat-trick off the bench. 8-1! Where's this come from? The come down from that was bound to be large, but we didn't show it against last year's Europa League finalists and this year's relegation hopefuls Jagiellonia. Catala sent it back to Peña, who drove it home. With 20 to go, it was Montparnasse yet again, receiving the ball and spinning a gorgeous strike off the post and the bar. With 2 minutes left, he added another and fully justified his call-up and first cap for the French national team. First regen in the entire save to get a cap for France, and it's Montparnasse. What a man. Mumbled his way right in there. In the cup against Tihi, it was business as usual from Catala, Obradovic and Peña, though Dushan's second goal was struck from so far out he might as well have still been in the changing rooms. The man still has it. The crazy thing though is that with this result, the quarterfinals had 3 B teams in it, including our own, as well as Lech Poznan's and Legia Warszawa's, and we'd be playing Lech's team in that quarterfinal match. Imagine if one of our B teams got that deep. We've already seen a B team reach a final, but I'd love us to try and win the whole damn thing. Having beaten Łukasz Eschwodge in the cup earlier that stream, we did the same in the league. Jens basically passed the ball languidly into the net for the early advantage. Forgotten man Mariusz Stoja pounced on a loose ball for 2-0, and Watkins grabbed the third to wrap up a routine win for the rotated side ahead of a crucial game midweek. We'd play Lille, our toughest test so far this season, but we did beat them 5-0 the last time we met, so, you know, we were confident. And for good reason, as just before half-time, Peña found room to pick out Jens on the edge of the box, and yet again, he perfectly picked out the bottom corner. He's less of a battering ram lately, more of a chauffeur of goals, guiding them to their destination with serenity and positive energy. It got even better in the second half as Duru off the bench picked out Montparnasse, because who else would it be, and killed the game. The runs that Montparnasse has been making lately is incredible because he's often getting up right in between the strikers on certain counter-attacks and general play, and it's allowing them to split, and the defenders never quite know where he's going to be because sometimes he makes late runs too, and the goal scoring from him this year is insane. We wanted to treat our final game before the winter break as a Christmas party of sorts, but it seems no one had told Lechia not to be spoilers. A long ball from Comey fed Kotovas through while Rodriguez was presumably trying to take a photocopy of his rear and skip the defending part entirely. Another loney does the damage. Luckily, Montparnasse was our designated designated driver for that night and made sure we all got home safely with a point and could now enjoy Christmas responsibly. No real cause for concern though, as we were still 10 points clear of Cracovia in second place, but shout out to Pogon, who were still occupying that third place and had already got 11 wins on their board. 36 points at this stage, they were going to be tough to dislodge from a European place. Thankfully, Piasklevica had started to fall away a bit and were now down on 28 points, starting to slip back down to where you'd expect them to be, along with Zagłębie Lubin, who are now very much where I expected them to be, in the rally zone. Rakow's form had picked up a lot as well, which was nice. Them and Lechia starting to move their way up the table, though Rakov were conceding a lot of goals. The crazy thing is, though, Jagiellonia, bottom, 8 points from safety. They look pretty much relegated already. It's wild. They've sacked the new boss that replaced the guy that got into the final and have now replaced him with the Atletico Madrid women's team manager. So we'll see how he does. They need a miracle. It's actually crazy that they could go down here. Even funnier is the fact that Legia have now sacked their manager and replaced him with the guy that left Jagiellonia after the Europa League final. So maybe he can save Legia from getting relegated, because that would be catastrophic. Hopefully in Europe these guys were faring a little bit better. Legia began with a boring 0-0 against Famalicão before needing to bail themselves out for a 1-1 against Ludogorets. They then did the expected and lost 2-0 at home to Brighton. A Polish side going to the Europa League final this year looked slim. Unless it was us. Lechia did fare a little better at least, but not against Freiburg, as they conceded late to lose 1-0. They bounced back, beating Bose 2-1 because apparently they're just playing the same teams as us, but then broke the mould and beat Kairat 3-1 to put some good points on the board. And after 6 games, we've got 15 points, looking easily good enough for top 8 now. Probably just one more win will get that over the line. The other two, however, not so much. Lechia with 9 points still only puts them 20th place with 2 matches to go. There is a real chance that you might need more than 9 to get through this time around. Legia, on the other hand, with only 5 points. They pretty much had to win out to have any hope of getting to the next round of the Europa League. But new manager bounce? You never know. As for the Conference League, is a much happier story. My new favourite reliable European and League team, Rodomiac Radom, never thought I'd say that, will peg back against Young Boys, but pulled off a very encouraging win. Even better was their resilience against FC Midtjylland. 2-0 down after 20 minutes, they pulled it back to a draw on the hour mark, but then Uri Mabwati deflected strike handed them the win in the 96th minute. They kept it going with a 4-1 win away at Skendia before a dull 0-0 draw in Norway. As for Rakov, they were humbled 4-1 at home by a stronger RZ side, but this seemed to spark something in them. First, a brilliant 2-1 win against Pauk, then an amazing 1-0 win away at Ikor of Sweden. The run was halted by a strong Estoril team. They thought they'd won it in the 62nd minute through Pisani, but Silver Richards grabbed a 94th minute leveller to break their hearts. They actually had 6 straight wins in all competitions at this stage. It's a real shame, which also explains their league rise. But crucially, these results did push them both through. Rakov in 15th place with 10 points, love to see it, but Rodomiac Radom only behind United, Hoffenheim and Real Sociedad. The best of the rest, quite literally, Rodomiac Radom. You'd love to see it. The best thing is they'd then get a bye to the round of 16, whereas Rakov would have to deal with some kind of playoff round. And it was now time for the winter break, although we had a very quiet time transfer-wise over the winter, mostly because technical constraints and my internet being cut off for a day when I was streaming meant that we essentially had to do all of the rest of the season in a single stream from this point onwards, and that, of course, cut into the time I had to make this video, so this is why hopefully it's still good quality, but it's been a tough one. It's been some long days, particularly because I'm in Poland at the weekend. That's why we couldn't push things back, because there wouldn't be a recap at all. Virgin Media is no longer my best friend. Chad Media is my new best friend. But we did sign a guy, though, before our first Europa League game. And you are not going to believe this. Spanish striker. Look at him. This is a Spanish striker. Team report in. He was a freebie. He was released by a team called Tamares. So we figured, what could possibly go wrong with us signing yet another random Spanish striker on a future prospect contract? They are just so goddamn good. I'm pretty certain at some point every single team in Poland is going to have a Spanish striker. I will make sure of it. But with the squad rested and ready, we had 2 Europa League games ready to go before we could get back to the league. So first up, it was a trip to the Arctic to face Boda and to try to do what many teams couldn't and beat them on their own frozen ground. It took until the second period, but Fila turned provider for Naeem, who'd not been as savvy in front of goal this season, but made no mistake this time. 3 minutes later, it was over as Obradovic burst through to slot home. Somehow Fila got the assist here. I think Montperouge didn't actually touch the ball despite holding off the entire Boda team. Anyway, on to Hajduk away. Just 12 minutes in, and once again we saw why Obradovic is so key for this team in Europe, arriving late to the back post to power home a header from John's cross. This guy lives for the lights. He only works on the big nights now. Sadly, the rest of the team didn't on this occasion share that view, as former Fulham youngster Adrian Pajaziti found space to fire the level home and cost us the win, but ultimately it doesn't matter too much. As for Legia and Lechia, they were certainly taking L's in the league, but definitely had to step it up for the Europa. The former decided that a draw as stale as bread against a poor Rangers side would do nicely before getting a much more admirable draw at home to Stuttgart. Legia actually showed a bit of fire under their new boss, first to take a 2-1 win at Slovan Bratislava, then a 3-1 victory at Molde with Kukonda and Romsals doing the damage. They needed those points badly because it was enough to get them through, just barely. Lechia in 21st place with 11 points. 10 points for a couple of teams wasn't enough to get you through. Normally 9 will do it. So this was a hell of an outlier season, but the point is they both got through. Lechia actually finished above and had a better goal difference in the end. They'd of course both have to go into the playoff round, which does kind of suck, but it is what it is. Us, on the other hand, comfortably through in second behind Newcastle, but truthfully, based on the stats, we should have won every single game. It happens. You know what? We'll save our luck for later, maybe. Now, the rewards for the following round, not particularly ideal. Lechia would have to face off against 12th place Lille, where Sporting would be the opponent to face Legia. So, very tough ties. And over in the Conference League, Rakov had now found out their fate. They would need to play Slavia Prague to have a chance at getting to the round of 16. Wasn't looking good. With the return of the league, we knew it was a case of just don't mess it up, and we'd actually get an early title win for once. So that's what we did. Got our heads down and won thanks to the usual suspects, Katala and Fila, though our third goal will definitely not be in the Katowice end of season DVD. But even the best teams have off days, and Brookbet found that out as we laboured at home to them, going behind to a lovely Kwiatkowski strike and needing a goalmouth scramble 13 minutes from time to bail out a point. But we bounced back immediately away to Gornik Zabja with Joe Bellingham setting up goals from Naeem and then Fila to make easy work of things. We were really finding that momentum now. Work which got even easier against Rodomiac, but I can't show it because the game instead gives us this lovely drone shot of some snow instead. Nice, really appreciate that. We then slid easily past Lex B team and the carp capped off by this absolutely stunning free kick from Català. We'd play Pogon in the semis, so another final was looking pretty likely. However, we had just found out our draw for the round of 16 in the Europa League was going to be Freiburg. We'd already beaten them in the group, so hopes were pretty high in that, but it would mean that we'd have to rotate our squad quite heavily for the oncoming game away at Legia Warszawa. Now, that could mean anything. Unfortunately, what it meant for us was getting absolutely humbled as we were apparently incapable of defending or jumping ever, as we managed to concede 4 goals from crosses and headers in the exact same game. A truly Herculean effort in appalling and genuinely one of the biggest defeats since we'd been promoted. But we didn't care, because we were soon on a plane to Germany with big plans. Plans which took under a minute to come to fruition as Hjortedal's deflected shot fell to Dusan for yet another European goal. 6 minutes later, they reversed the play, with Obradovic dropping it back for Hjortedal, who powered home another to give us a 2-goal lead. Ironically, we had loads of chances after this, but the only 2 we actually scored were the 2 sort of speculative ones right at the start of the game. But nevertheless, good performance. It was rotation time again against a free-falling Zagłębie Lubin, and a real statement from summer signing Eloy Suarez. Called up to the first team after no loans could be found, he marked his opportunity with 2 goals in a 3-0 win. Fresh legs, ready for the second leg. And it was dull as hell. Did absolutely nothing in this game except miss constant chances yet again. We're saving up the XG, I can feel it. Luckily, we didn't need to because Freiburg created nothing either. Naeem was yet again absolutely elite. The fact that he can put up ratings like this in 0-0 draws is insane. But we got through to the quarters. So the question you're probably wondering is what happened to the other Polish teams? Lechia earned a brave 0-0 draw with Lille at home, but they were dismantled in France 4-0 to see them fall out immediately. Legia fared better by beating Sporting in Poland, but getting the scorer sent off 6 minutes after the goal killed what could have been magic, as the second leg squared things quickly before a penalty in extra time was enough to send them home. At least a valiant effort and some more points for Poland. Rakov surprised us all by nabbing a 0-0 draw in Prague against Slavia, but couldn't do it in the home leg. A 2-1 defeat was enough to see them also fall short, leaving just Rodomiac, who'd obviously got a bye to the round of 16, where they would face Motherwell. I'm not going to make the joke again, but yes, she is. Thank you for asking. They scraped a 1-1 in the pouring rain in Scotland to set up a showdown at home, and what a game it was. Benito gave them the lead after 41 minutes, but Ramsey levelled the game in stoppage time. 4 minutes into the second half, they were in front through Saman. 2 minutes later, Gonzalez had squared the game again. 6 minutes after that, Angulo smashed home their third and the winning goal for a 3-2 win. A 3-2 win where the goal started in the 41st minute and ended in the 57th minute. Either way, they were through to the quarters and set up a tie against Danish side Raners. But for us, it was now back to that pesky league and the gap to Cracovia that simply wouldn't get any bigger. Montperu set about changing that with a goal off some nice work down the left and an assist in the second half for Duru for another win and another clean sheet. Next, we hosted a promoted Piasklevice that you'll remember started quite well, but wait till I show you the league table again in a few matches and you'll see the insane run they've been on since then. Luis Eduardo gave us the lead in the sun, but the ultimate surprise team pulled off an equaliser with a header from Volsky. Dropped points, and next we'd have to play Cracovia in the derby. Not ideal, especially as we just found out our draw for the next round of the Europa League, where we'd be going to Germany, again, this time to play Stuttgart. So a rotated team it was, in the derby that could decide a few things potentially. That may have scared us, but even scarier was our performance here. Filio gave us the lead after 16 minutes, and all was well, but Akiyama and then Montero turned the game around to hand our rivals a win and close the gap back to 5 points insanely. And yes, that is Wolves' Hugo Bueno in that Cracovia team. But the defeat would be worth it if we could make it past Stuttgart. 5 minutes in, we got a very bad feeling as Noah Darvic drilled them in front after a well-worked corner, but 2 can play at that game as Montparouse walked in unopposed to put it back to 1-1 just before half an hour. There was clearly something in the air as Fila was then given too much space to do something similar after 53 minutes and finally give us the lead after so much pressure and chances being missed. The lead only lasted 9 minutes though as Buonanni cut him from the right and found the precision to plant the ball in the very top corner out of De Campo's reach for 2-all. But with 3 minutes to go, they were more wise to our set pieces, so we had to change tacks, instead moving to Big Jens on the edge of the box, who found Peña, who simply unleashed a near-post drive that the keeper couldn't reach to give us a deserved win. Our best chances in this game, much like Freiburg and that other one, weren't the ones we scored from. We were just taking pop shots and random opportunities, but missed every one-on-one. Still, 3-2 is fine, but work to do. Our second string did the business again in the league thanks to Nigel Lunga and Eloy Suarez. It's nice to see Nigel back in the team again. Might well be his last sort of season for us, but nevertheless, nice to give him some game time. Because then it was time for the second leg away at Stuttgart. And just 7 minutes in, we had some breathing space. Naeem's beautiful cross resulted in a looping header from Montparouse to make it 1-0. Him becoming even more of a goal scorer than he already was not on my bingo card for this season. Even stranger was Big Jens popping up with a header on the hour mark to finally let us breathe and start to look towards a semi-final against Brighton that would be a massive test. There was still time for Anyanwu to put through his own net and give us a 6-2 aggregate win. But what about Rodomiac? They let in an early penalty, but Mabwati scored a beauty to get them level, only for Sek to score the winner in the 69th minute for runners. They had much work to do in Denmark. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough as they went behind early. An own goal got them back into it before Sek scored another penalty to put them back behind. Mabwati kept it close with a late one, but they fell at the quarter-final stage. 5 teams into the knockouts is definitely good progress for us, but we now stood alone as Poland's final representative and would have to face Brighton with a chance to get to the Europa League final. But the league did still exist, and it was then time for the Adan Katala show, as despite Lech Poznan taking the lead early, he set up the tying goal before adding a hat-trick which included another wondrous free kick. We also scored 3 goals in 4 minutes in this match for a proper stunning to a struggling Lech side. The cup semi-final was equally light work as we smashed 6 past Pogon, with Hjortedal scoring one of the goals of the season, jabbing with the outside of his right foot to find the top corner from the strangest of places. The holy trinity of Montparouse, Hjortedal and Obradovic had truly been unbelievable this season. Wait till you see the stats. And the chances of a truly interesting title race had completely vanished as Cracovia had pretty much stumbled over their own shoelaces since beating us, which meant that if our rotated side could beat Lechia Gdansk ahead of that Brighton game, we would be crowned champions with 3 games to spare. The lads did not let us down, with Suarez and Duru basically toying with Lechia to combine for all 3 of our goals and show just how much depth this team had. Champions by virtue of our superior head-to-head and a massive goal difference advantage. Anyway, we could not be caught. And a record points tally could be on the score for us if we were to continue going. 69 goals scored, only 20 conceded, and honestly, 4 of those were Legia. Cracovia best of the rest by an enormous distance, but you'll note who they're ahead of. So you see, Piasklevica, well, the last time we checked in, were 8th place and had, I think, 28 points. Since then, they've won 9, drawn 2 and lost 1, and are absolutely firing their way up the league. Look at their goal difference. They're not even there by luck either. They are smashing teams and have pretty much already wrapped up a European place for next season out of nowhere. And despite a little resurgence from Jagiellonia, where they actually got back to within 2 points of safety, they now were all but relegated. 8 points from safety with 3 matches to go. Crazy that they'd gone so far down in such a short space of time. Also joined in the relegation by Lech Poznan and Rakov. Worth noting that Legia are only 1 point above it themselves, and Lechia are only 2 points above it. Lads, come on. Poland is doing Poland things again, but we had to focus on Brighton midweek, because an English side in these saves, you know, is a very different matter. After a very tough start, absorbing pressure and Docampo keeping us in the game essentially, we got hit with a bit of luck when Fila's shot ricocheted to who else but the holy trinity of Montparouse to put us in front massively against the run of play. Just before half-time, we finally got up the pitch again and Montparouse found Jens on the edge of the box. His perfectly placed shot crept into the bottom corner and insanely, we were 2-0 up. At the start of the second half, Dusan gave away a dumb penalty, which Docampo heroically saved to keep our lead, and just after the hour mark, he made up for his error by finding space in the box to slam us 3 goals up, mugging them off royally. The bad luck that put us in this competition in the first place seemed to be coming back around now, and all of the Holy Trinity had scored. It was then Docampo's turn for an error as he kicked it long for no reason, and we gave the ball away, allowing Ruter to get Brighton a deserved goal, and we held on for a 3-1 win. It's a good win, but they played well, could have done more, and away from home against the Premier League side, especially one that's challenging for the Champions League this season, we were concerned. especially as we then had the cup final midweek in between these games. And I'd love to show you it, but the game has said no on this particular occasion. We screwed it up massively. Coffee got a red card early on. Kukonda obviously scored against us. 2-0 win for Legia, which does now present the problem of that's going to get them Europe for next year, which they may be contesting from the second tier if they don't sort themselves out. And it's now taken away a European spot from potentially Rodomiac, the one team in there that actually have some experience of it. But at least that was out the way and we could focus on Brighton, because we had a chance now to have back-to-back Europa Leagues with Polish sides in the final. All we had to do was hold on at the Amex. And in a very weird turn of events, the onslaught we expected from the South Coast club never arrived. 40 minutes in, Katala's deflected cross found Fila and it was 4-1. 3 minutes from time, Nigel pulled out the assist of the year with his back heel finding Duru's feet for him to make it 5-1, an easy passage to the final. They just never showed up in this game. Look at the stat. They just weren't involved. I think they rotated their squad slightly because of the Premier League at the weekend, because they are obviously in European battles for the Champions League, but still. And that, of course, pushed us to the Europa League final, which is exactly what we are doing over on stream right now. I'll be suited up, sweating like a pig, no doubt. It's my birthday that weekend, so is this Pog. I already mentioned that earlier, I think. And this would be the perfect present if we could actually win a European trophy for us in this season. Probably the last time we'll get to play in the Europa League in this save ourselves. So it'd be nice to actually finally win one, because I don't think I've ever done that in a Building a Nation save. The downside is we have to play Newcastle in that final, who'd beaten Girona on penalties to reach it after 2 draws. It's going to be tough, but there's still the league. And although we may have been clear at the top, those relegation places still needed to be decided as there was a lot on the line. And Rakov did not get any help from us. Jens's goal away to them did them absolutely no favours in a 1-0 defeat. And with the midweek final, we rested the team against Ruk Herzhov and still managed to get the win thanks to 2 goals from Marius Stoyer. The really bad news is that despite being rested from games, Naeem would likely miss the Europa League final as he picked up a training injury the day after the Brighton game. Not ideal when I would say he's still our most important player in many ways. I'll show you properly the league table now so you can see any other attributes and stuff that you want to see there too. 80 points, still 1 game to be played, of course, so there is still something on the line here potentially, but obviously that occurs after the Europa League final, so I couldn't put it in here, but we are 14 clear of Cracovia, who have wrapped up second. Piaskelevica, 60 points, could even finish on 63. If they'd done the whole season at that kind of pace, they'd be on for 75 odd points and are in a title race. I don't think we'll have to worry about them next year because Europe, but still worrying. Pogon are likely to get Europe as well unless they mess it up on the last day and allow Rodomiac to sneak above them in the final league European place. Legia will be in Europe. We just don't know which division they're going to be in because, of course, they won the cup. They only have a -1 goal difference and so do Lechia. It's like watching Spurs and Man United last year being right down there, but still having reasonable goal differences. That final match day is actually way more important than they usually are because they're all on different points. I actually don't know who's got the head-to-head advantage against who because each one of them has 1 more point than the team below them. Poland is mad, mate. As for the second tier, Marta's Łódź are back up into the top flight, which is nice to see. 5 points clear of Arka, who have already joined them. Polonia Warsaw are looking good for a third place and potentially the playoffs. Śląsk finally back in there as well, which is nice to see. Wisła Płock, the places are looking sewn up. Polonia Bytom in there too, and annoyingly, a team that we have funded loads of players to, once again look like they're going to miss out by the smallest of margins. The ultimate disappointments in Puszczenia Płomice. Can they do it this time? Probably not. Now, of course, with Europe, the final is still to be played, but you'll still want to see the coefficients. Because obviously England are doing England things again, but that's another story. We are once again 5th on the year. 19.1 points. Our last 2 seasons have been on a par with a lot of the teams in the top 5 or 6. That's how good we've been over the last couple of years. Albeit, when you get to those points, you end up with more teams in Europe. But I'm at the stage now where the Polish teams always seem to be able to do something, no matter who they are. So that might not affect us as badly. And what it means even more is that as things stand, we can't really grow much more than where we currently are. We're not likely to catch Portugal. But we have overtaken Turkey and the Netherlands this year. We're overtaking the Netherlands this year to go into 7th place on the coefficients. That's wild. There is one tiny little bonus for like a league stage thing for the Europa League, I think, for getting 7th, but rest of it's pretty much the same. The point is, it brings us right into the battle, though, with Portugal and France. Poland is coming for you. I'm telling you, we're going to have a crazy good season next time. I can feel someone is going to do something magical next year. I'm thinking Conference League, though. I don't know why, I just feel like a Conference League semi-final or final for someone in Poland. Now, as for us overall, the squad has been absurd this season. You can see the best average rating, Naeem. Now, there's still 1 game to play, technically, so these stats are subject to change. He should have scored more goals, though. Only 3 this year is a little disappointing. I think he was the biggest underperformer in terms of goals. It ain't why he's here. I think he also underperformed his assists. Yeah, he did a little bit. That's not really his fault. He has been elite, though. But if he can't play in that final, we could be in trouble. There, still only 21. What a player. Jens Hjertedal, 14 goals and 8 assists from Big Jens. 14 goals from Jens. insane behaviour. Lunga, when he played, did quite well. Fila as well, 17 goals and 11 assists, 28 goal contributions is wild. Monperus, 18 goals and 14 assists. I think he is my player of the season in many ways, just because 32 goal contributions is an unbelievable amount. He has been sensational this year in every area, basically. And the reason I wanted to highlight Domashevic is because he's mostly been playing as a backup to Olufemi John this season, and John will have more assists than him. In fact, wait, no, he doesn't. Oh my God, that's wild. John has got 8 assists allegedly supposed to have, but he's only got 5, whereas Domashevic is supposed to have 5, and he's got 8. And he's also played less than half the number of minutes. There is a real world where Domashevic might end up just being that guy. John has been good this season, but I'm actually disappointed that he's only got 5 assists there. Truly shocked by that. 4 different players into double-digit assists is kind of wild, and the fact that we've got 6 dudes into double-digit goals. Nobody's broken 20, but we just spread the goals around so much. And Pena as well. 9 goals from him as mostly a backup this season. We've got so much depth there. And you can see in terms of pure best players, Naeem, Monperus, these guys are just kind of crushing it right now. You will notice that you have to go quite a long way down to start finding centre-backs. And that is definitely an area that is going to need to be improved, because if you really want to challenge at the elite level in the Champions League, you need better centre-backs. Now, of course, we don't actually have our budgets for next season, because technically the league hasn't finished yet and it's not been decided, so we don't know how much money we're going to be working with yet, because obviously the Europa League final is there too, so that's going to be a nice surprise. And lastly, the loan farm. Now, it's actually only 178, which I think is almost identical to last year. The difference is we've managed to get some new guys out that are better. A few guys were released that weren't as good, and you'll actually see that some of the better rated players, there's 3 different dudes all at Piast Gliwice. This is the benefit of the loan farm. They took some guys when they came up and they've done a good job. He is a phenomenal player. At that level, he's great. The longer we can keep him out there, the better. We will need to extend that contract though. Same for their goalkeeper, Geronimo Nuevo. I mean, the longer they keep these guys, the more they could do. They could be the first team that really takes that loan farm and goes with it. And even people like Marcel Gebler. Again, these guys that could probably play for us, honestly, but they're doing such a good job out on loan, it's way more beneficial for them to stay there. Similarly, as Fabrice Facone, of course, scored a winning goal in the Conference League for Rakov this year. Now, the thing is, he may not want to stay with them if they get relegated. The bonus is that I'm pretty certain he's got a 2-year loan, so he may well have no choice, which means they could be catastrophically good next year if they keep all of these guys on loan. Another player I wanted to highlight is Saul Oranda, who's been on loan at Brookbet this season too, and these are the kind of levels of quality that are out there. It's truly insane. But the one man who's done the best, there is no debate, it's Uri Kukonda. He's got Belgium caps continually while out on loan. He's very good, and this season so far, well, in total, 18 goals he managed for Legia, 10 in the league, 8 in the Europa League for them as well. He's fantastic. Not even worth that much money, but maybe they'll find better, but I don't know, it's crazy. So, there we go. That's what's over on stream right now. Final, suited up, vibes. The final day as well is going to be absolutely hectic straight after that as well, which I'm scared for, to be honest, but it's going to be fabulous. Hopefully this video was good enough, and some of the new things I'm trying out work well as we sort of adjust the narrative flow and structure over the coming ones of them. New videos and stuff are coming along the way. It's just slow progress, and then it'll be like off the end of the hose and all that. But yes, I really do thank you for your patience and for the support over on Twitch and on here as well. Just for you guys watching these videos, it's very nice of you. Hopefully they're good enough. And yeah, have a lovely rest of your day. If you've enjoyed this, drop a like. That'd be awesome. Subscribe if you're new. Hype it. Is that a thing? I've seen that as a thing. I don't know what it is, but do it if you can. That'd be kind of nice. And I'll see you guys over on stream. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.